guys, welcome to the show. It's good to be with you as always, and this is a video podcast, so if you're listening to this podcast, go ahead and go to my YouTube channel and check this video out. You can just search my name, Hunter McWaters, and you can watch this podcast as well as a bunch of other stuff. And my Kodiak Films, my first hunt film series, is going to be releasing mid-February, so be on the lookout for that, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. So today I just wanted to go through, I just got back from this trip to Arizona, and I was being a little bit secretive about who I was going with and what I was doing, just because I don't really like to talk about things before they kind of come to fruition. So I wanted to shed a little light on that and kind of give you guys some exciting announcements of kind of what's coming down the pipeline for me and for the Hunter's Quest, and I'm really excited to share this stuff with you guys. And I wanted to just go through all the stuff I learned out there in Arizona on this archery Coues and Mule deer hunt, and share some gear stuff with you guys, and just kind of go through a recap of the hunt. So to start things off, I actually went down there to meet up with the guys from Gritty. So if you're familiar with Gritty, Brian Call, he's been a guest on here before. If you're watching this and you're in the hunting outdoor space, you probably are familiar with Brian and his work. So I actually went down to meet up with Brad Hunt, which is Brian's kind of one of his partners, and he does a lot of the camera work for Brian and stuff like that. And he actually just came on to Gritty full time. And actually Ryan Lampers was supposed to be there, but he was having some family stuff going on. I think somebody was sick or something, so they didn't actually make it. But I went down to meet up with Brian and Brad and do some hunting, do some filming, and kind of just do some work together to see, how we got along, if we could work together and more in the future. So I do want to share with you guys a little bit about that. So I don't really like I said, I don't like to talk about things too much before they actually come to fruition. So, nothing is set in stone, nothing is signed on paper, nothing like that. But I did have a great time hunting with those guys and learned a lot from them, and we got along really well and had a good time together. So, it looks like I'm going to be teaming up more in the future with Gritty and with Brian Call, and what that'll look like is, the way we discussed it anyway, was me kind of being a video contributor to the Gritty channel. And so, that way I'll kind of have my own autonomy, and I can still kind of produce content the way I want, and continue to build the Hunter's Quest and my YouTube channel and my podcast and stuff like that, but also contribute some content on Brian's channel that will help him get some more high quality content, as well as helping me to get more exposure to his audience, some of his industry contacts and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be really mutually beneficial for me and Brian and Gritty. And I'm looking forward to working with those guys more. I'm looking forward to helping grow Gritty as a brand. If you're not subscribed, you should definitely check out their YouTube channel, Gritty. Some amazing content. I've actually learned a ton from Brian. I did a podcast with him a few months back. Definitely go back and check that out if you haven't. So anyway, I'm looking forward to working with these guys more. I'm looking forward to contributing some content to the channel, helping to grow Gritty as a brand, and also continuing to grow the Hunter's Quest. So if you've been a long-time listener, or even if you're just starting out, I really appreciate your support. I'm excited for all the things in the future with the Hunter's Quest. And also want to say with that too is I've really been blessed. I don't want to go into a whole bunch of details, but I'm actually going to be able to go into this media, the Hunter's Quest project, full-time this year in 2022. I'm really excited to announce that. I've been kind of hinting at it a little bit here and there, but it's official now. I did leave my job, and I am full-time at the Hunter's Quest, which is amazing. Again, thank you so much for your support, and I'm really going to need you guys full-on support, going forward, especially as I start rolling stuff out on YouTube and continuing the podcast. So right now I have, I believe, 5, possibly 6, but 5 kind of big out-of-state Western hunts and film projects planned for this year. So it's going to be a doozy. Physically, it's going to be, tough on my family. It's going to be, but, I'm not complaining. it's a dream come true. It's completely amazing, and like I said, I'm so blessed to have this opportunity. But it's gonna be challenging at the same time. So please continue supporting me through leaving me ratings and reviews, subscribing, sharing with your friends, talking about the show, talking about the YouTube channel. But keep in your prayers. I'm gonna need prayer support. I love those encouraging messages when folks reach out to me. So keep those coming. Keep me in your prayers. I really want to continue to produce excellent outdoor content, and also bring in the spiritual side of things into my conversations with my guests, and into the films as well. So thank you for your support again. I'm really excited about announcing that, and like I said, I'm somewhat hesitant to even mention the partnership with Gritty, not because I'm not excited about it, because I'm very excited about it, but I don't really like to talk about things before they happen, or count your chickens before they hatch, or whatever you want to say. But it looks like I will be doing some form of collaboration with Gritty in the future, and I'm excited about that. And however that looks, I'm excited about it. So, but man plans his steps, but the Lord directs his path. So whether or not that happens, it really doesn't matter, because I'm going full send on the Hunter's Quest, full send with the production this year, continuing the podcast, continuing to put out more great films. So stay tuned, and I appreciate y'all's support. So anyway, enough of that. I do want to recap this hunt I did with Brian and Brad. It was, I don't know if you guys have ever seen their content from Arizona. It's an over-the-counter archery hunt, and it's Coues deer or mule deer. It's $300 tag that's good for either species of deer, any antlered buck. So I just kind of want to go through the trip with you guys, and what I learned through the experience, and like I said, some gear stuff and whatnot. So the first thing I want to mention, I flew down there. I'm on the East Coast, so I don't have the luxury of driving a rig down there with all my camping gear. So of course I had to fly with my bow, camera gear, and camping gear. So as you can imagine, that was not cheap. I had to rent a vehicle. So my first kind of note, do not rent vehicles through Priceline, okay? I should have known this, but I didn't read the fine print, and apparently if you book a vehicle through Priceline, it's non-refundable. You can't change it. Even if you get sick or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, you're locked in no matter what, and they're really rigid. So I called customer service on both ends. Anyway, I had to shift my hunt a few days due to some circumstances out of my control. And I basically had to eat a 10-day car rental fee, which is not cheap, because they wouldn't change the reservation or cancel it or refund me or anything. So don't rent a vehicle through Priceline. Call the rental company directly. I used Alamo. They were pretty good. They upgraded me to a nice Dodge Ram with 4-wheel drive. It was nice. So the other thing is, if you have to fly, pack as much food as you can. I kind of wanted to be, I didn't know these guys very well going in, so I didn't want to be kind of relying on them. So I planned to fly in, with a half day to go to Walmart to provision. But I packed as much food as I could to save money. And, I wanted to be completely kind of self-contained. I didn't really want to have to rely on them for much of anything, because, you want to be a good guest. Anytime you're, invited on a hunt, whether it's whatever it is, if you're invited on a hunt, you want to show up prepared. You want to be a good guest. That's something my dad taught me. Shout out to my dad. He always, taught me how to be a really good, gracious guest when you're in somebody else's camp. And you don't want to be the guy that shows up with not having stuff and needing to borrow stuff and, asking people for rides to the grocery. You don't want to be that guy. So, be as prepared as you can, and also plan some time to provision if you need so. Let's see. So normally, here's another travel note. Normally I stand directly below where the luggage is dropped onto the conveyor belt on my, I'm picking up my baggage at the airport. This time I was like, I'm gonna go over there where I normally do, but I decided I'm gonna stand over on the other side, because that's where the airline was going to bring my bow case out because I also had a firearm in there. So anyway, I was like, yeah, I normally stand over there, it'll be fine. I'll just wait for it to come around. And actually, I look over, I see my Pelican case full of all my camera gear come down the conveyor belt and hit the thing. I was like, okay, great, there it is. But it started taking a little longer than I expected. And I was like, what's going on? So then I saw it come around, pulled it off, big black Pelican case, but something didn't seem right. The locks weren't on it. I opened up somebody else's Pelican case. Same case, full of a bunch of computer stuff. So basically what happened is someone took my Pelican case, which, situational awareness, like, look at the bags you're picking up, make sure it's yours. Of course, they weren't answering their phone. The airline couldn't track them down. They ended up driving. Long story short, but I had to spend the whole first day without any of my clothing. Luckily, and this is another note, make sure you pack, your essentials, at least for a 24-hour period, in your carry-ons. So thank the Lord, I had one camera and I had my puffies in my carry-on, which if I didn't have that stuff, I would have been cameraless and freezing. Thank the Lord, I did have the wherewithal to put my puffies and one camera setup into my carry-on. So, but all that to say, just keep a close eye on your stuff. Make sure you're grabbing the right stuff, and keep your essentials in your carry-on. I probably in the future, if I can, will move to carrying on all my camera stuff. So anyway, let's see. I mentioned that, it was cool. I was in camp with, Brian brought his whole family down. So his parents were there, awesome people. His sisters, his wife, his kids, and Brad were all there. And there was supposed to be some other kind of industry guys in the camp too, but with this Omicron thing, different people had to cancel and stuff like that. So, but actually it was really good because I got a chance to really get to know Brian and Brad pretty well. So I think that was the Lord kind of orchestrating that. But anyway, I just want to say, again, make sure you show up to camp with everything you need, and be self-contained. That's a good note. And I do just want to say thanks, to his family. They were great hosts, and they made dinner for us a couple nights, and really great people. So I enjoyed hanging out with them. And so anyway, moving into kind of the day-to-day stuff, hold on a second. So this is a really tough hunt, guys. I knew it was going to be tough. I mean, I think stalking into bow range of any animal is pretty tough, but you hear stories about Coues deer being all, very cagey and very whatever. It is true. These things are the most, granted, southeastern whitetails are also extremely cagey. I'd put them in a similar class, to be honest, although I think, to tell you the truth, I think the Coues deer might be a little more cagey. Like, if they hear or see or smell anything, there's no second chance, no hesitation, they're gone. Just gone. Especially big ones and the does. They're very keyed in. So it is a tough hunt, guys. The areas we were in, the Coues deer were less pressured than the mule deer. You always you find kind of the mule deer more in the flats type areas, and the Coues deer a little more in the elevation, in the Okatia and stuff like that. And we found that to be true. But during the weekend, especially when there's more pressure, and in general, the mule deer seem to be hunted harder and by more guys. And that makes sense because they're easier to kill, they're bigger. And honestly, I wanted to kill a mule deer when we were down there. So just keep that in mind. It's a tough hunt. I'm not discouraging you from going out there and trying it. It's a fun hunt, but it is very challenging. So just don't have any misconceptions about that. It's a very tough hunt. But anyway, day one, we kind of got out there. We set up, we glassed, we saw a pretty decent Coues deer, and we saw some smaller but nice mule deer, but nothing to, for me, obviously I'm not really at the point in my career where I'm looking for monsters. I'm kind of just, happy with whatever at this point, to be honest with you. But these guys, of course, they're a little more experienced Western hunters. They're looking for big animals. So we didn't see anything, big enough that they wanted to kind of go after. So You know, day one we pretty much just glassed all day, drove around, checked out different areas in the unit, and just kind of did general, you know, glassing and exploring. Day two, actually, we were on the glassing knob, me and Brad. Brian went to a different spot to glass. And we were looking off, I think it would be the east side of the knob, and then I kind of just wandered over to the west side and actually found a really nice like 5x6 mule deer, and I called Brad over, and we confirmed it was like a shooter even for these guys. Really nice buck. I got some cool photos and video of him. But after about, I don't know, 15 minutes or so of glassing him and kind of keeping tabs on where he was, a vehicle rolled by. I mean, pretty far away, but you know, you could tell this is a mature deer because most deer, the vehicles don't bother him. This guy, when he heard the vehicle, even though it was far away in the distance, he got out of there after he heard that. So we didn't actually put any stalks on that day. We did try to relocate that buck. I personally never saw him again. I don't think we couldn't find him again the rest of that day. But anyway, day three, that was, I believe that was Friday or Saturday. But anyway, we kind of like the pressure thing that I mentioned earlier, we kind of changed up tactics on the weekend. So, like I said, as you'll see in a lot of public land places, as the weekend rolls in, you start to see more trucks, more guys, more pressure. And most of that pressure is focused in the flats on the mule deer. It's easier terrain and, you know, a little easier deer to kill. So we kind of shifted gears and started hunting the Coues deer on the weekend, which I think is a really good strategy if you guys are doing this hunt. Because we went to a new spot where we didn't see any mule deer, but we saw lots of nice Coues deer, and we pretty much had them to ourselves. I mean, you know, there were other vehicles kind of rolling through the general vicinity, but we were able to hunt pretty much 3 days in a row of, like, I would say Boone and Crockett class Coues deer pretty much to ourselves. So could be something you look into in terms of hunting the Coues deer on the weekends. So this is where I really learned, or the importance of good glass was reinforced to me. I went out there with a set of 12s, they're Vortex Diamondback 12x50s, decent, not great, but decent glass. And you know, after putting in hours behind it, you really can tell. You know, you start to get the edge blur, and you just the imperfections start to come out more. And so I would recommend, I thought the 12s were good, but you really need a tripod. Like, if you're going to run 12s I mean, you can quickly glass an area and quickly scan. If you really want to pick apart an area, I mean, and get really much detail, you need a tripod, a good tripod. I run 2Vets tripods, and actually, if you use the code HQ5, you can save 5% at 2Vets tripods. Super high quality, tough, rugged carbon fiber tripods. The one I personally recommend and actually helped develop is called the Ruck, and it's the smallest, lightest one they make, and it has a center column. So that's perfect for backcountry hunts. It's like 2 pounds, super solid, super rugged. So yeah, use that code HQ5, save 5% on that. And 2Vets tripods, they're all quality. They have all the way up to, like, you know, hardcore PRS tripods, but the one I use for backcountry hunts is called the Ruck tripod. The No Name Junior is also good, but doesn't have a center column. So the other thing is that somebody in camp had a pair of stabilized binoculars. I think maybe Brian's dad had a pair or something, or I can't remember whose they were. Had just brought, I think they were Sig Sauer stabilized binoculars, and they had a pair of 16s. And man, those are game changers. Let me just say, I mean, you could really glass without a tripod as well or better than I could with my 12s on a tripod. But mainly, you know, I was running the the Vortex Diamondbacks, and Brian and Brad, they run Loophole glass, which I used their spotters a number of times, the Loophole spotters. I'm not exactly sure which ones they are, forgive me. But the Loophole glass is super nice, super high quality spotters. So definitely consider Loophole for binos and spotters. And you definitely want to have a spotter as well. This much country and really having good glass and really spending the time behind the glass really is kind of one of the things that really set these guys apart as better, I would say, than the other guys we saw out there hunting. Some guys would kind of roll up and glass for a minute, and if the deer weren't obvious, they were rolling on. Whereas we would sit there for hours if we needed to until we turned something up, and sometimes it took hours, but I think it was pretty much every single day we found a deer that was worth going after. So it just goes to show that having good glass and having the patience to put in the time behind it is huge on this hunt. That's one of the things that set these guys apart, I think. The other thing is having some kind of stalking shoe. From my background, I kind of thought maybe it was sort of an extra item, or like, do I really need those or not? Yeah, if you're trying to get within 50 yards of a mature Coues deer, you ain't doing it in boots. I don't care. I mean, honestly, like, you need every advantage you can get. And so the ones I run are called Ancient, ANXYNT. A buddy of mine makes them out of Nevada. And they're actually really cool looking. Like, you can wear them as like casual wear shoes almost. But there's a leather moccasin. Brian and Brad run Stockisons. But you need some kind of stalking shoe. I mean, it's crucial. Anytime we went on a stalk, we were wearing those things. And then Brian actually showed me too. He would take a knee-length sock, like a wool sock, and he'd cut the foot off. So it was just the calf section of the sock. And he would actually pull that over his calf on top of the stockisons, like a homemade gaiter, but instead of like a waterproof loud type material, it's wool. So that would cover the bottom of your shoe. Not only would it keep debris and cactuses and all kinds of junk in like stickers and whatever out of your socks, it would also keep your pants around your lower leg tight. And it's such a cliche. Everything wants to stick you and prick you out there, but it's true. And so, I mean, you're constantly walking through thorns and briars and all kinds of stuff. So it can be really loud. So having that calf section of like a wool sock as like a gaiter was also huge. So we wear those, the stocking shoes, and then Brian even would actually put a pair of wool socks over his stockisons to even give it an extra layer of dampening to make it even quieter. And so, I mean, it's funny. He looked like a ninja walking around. He had like, it was funny. I called him the Desert Ninja. But you need those. Like, I mean, you need every advantage you can get, and you cannot cheat the wind. Don't even try. You might as well stay in camp and like make s'mores if you're gonna stalk with the wind at your back. Like, don't even try it. Well, I want to get into stalking more here because that's a big deal. Well, I'll just go into it. We saw a lot of guys from a distance through our glass stalking, and they were not getting it done because in order to get it done on these deer, even for me, I mean, it was eye-opening. I mean, they take stalking to a new level. When I say go out on a stalk, you might be thinking, as I was thinking heading into this hunt, maybe an hour or 2 hour long at the most kind of ordeal. No. These guys would find a deer and would spend 6-8 hours, if not more if they needed it, getting into position on these deer. I mean, it's next level. And that's what you have to be to kill these things. We would see these guys through the glass, a mile or so off or whatever, and they'd just be they'd be trying to sneak, but walking pretty much upright, not really being careful about where they're placing your feet. I mean, you really have to. And Brian was showing me, like, almost doing like a one-legged squat, like putting all your weight on one foot and like gently, like slowly putting your foot down before you even put weight on it to kind of check the noise, and then like shifting weight onto it. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things I learned from this trip is to be successful with an archery tackle on these animals. Like, you got to take your stealthiness to like another level. You know, Brian was telling me like stuff that he'd heard from Ryan about like you want to move like the hour hand on a clock, like moves. You know, if you think you're going slow, go slower, and then go slower than that. Like, and these guys do. I mean, you just, I can't overstate enough like how slow they move at times, and because you just can't get anything over on these deer. So the first or that third day, Brad spotted a nice Coues deer. So he spotted it. He was gonna go hunt it. I was running camera behind him, and we spent, I'd say, from 11 a.m. till just about dark. And we did get into about 40 yards of this deer, and then something happened. The wind shifted. They smelled us and got out. So, you know, be prepared for, you know, day-long ordeals with these stalks. I mean, other thing, too, is the temperature fluctuations out there are crazy. I mean, you know, in January, we'd be up on a hillside. The sun would come out. You'd be kind of in a saddle or something, and you'd be sweating. It'd be hot. And then, you know, the cloud might roll over, and then you're in kind of a more windy spot, and you're freezing to death. So you want to make sure you got a good layering system. On these stalks, I found, you know, it's good to have, you know, I was carrying like a frame backpack, but it's good to have like a day bag for this kind of thing that you can take on a stalk, because, like I said, these stalks are day-long ordeals. So you'd want to take your puffies, you know, an emergency snack even. You know, I was even a couple times wishing I had like headphones to like listen to an audiobook or something when we were kind of resting in between moving, which might sound crazy, but I mean, it's a whole day thing. So be prepared. You know, have some water if you can, and just be prepared for like a day-long ordeal on these things. Actually, this is kind of one thing that I thought about when I was up there, because, you know, when we set off on this stalk, me and Brad, you know, I was thinking, like I said, that we'd be on the mountain for an hour or 2, 3 or something, you know. So I did bring my pack with me, but we dropped our packs like fairly early on, while we were still well kind of out of range of the deer. And so I didn't have a snack, I didn't have water, I didn't have extra jacket, anything like that. And we ended up like, we didn't eat or drink anything all day. And so, you know, on the way out, I was listening to The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter, which is a good book. And I didn't finish it. You know, I only finished like the first chapter or 2 so far, but, you know, something I was thinking about when I was up there, because there was one point where the wind was on me really heavy. We were kind of exposed in this like rocky outcropping, and I was hungry, and I was like really cold. I was starting to get really cold, and I was just kind of having that mental battle of just kind of staying focused, staying in the game, you know, not complaining or whatever, or, you know, not internally complaining. And the thought occurred to me, like, you know, I feel like a lot of our problems as a society, as a culture, as individuals, come from, and I think this is a lot of what the book talks about, although I don't know if this specific thing is in the book, but this kind of just occurred to me, is like, if your baseline is like excessive comfort, so like if your normal average baseline is like always perfectly ideal temperature, always perfectly well fed, you know, just comfortable, like baseline all the time, you know, adversity is going to seem really, really tough. Any discomfort is going to seem very, you know, earth shattering. So, but you know, and I think that also leads to, you know, drug use or alcohol abuse or any other kind of like compulsive behavior. But if you can purposely get yourself out of your comfort zone and do hard things, you know, and kind of move your baseline further away from excessive comfort, things just get easier. And actually, I wrote, when I was up on the mountain, it kind of hit me. I feel like I may have articulated it a little better, but let's see. Yeah, if your baseline is comfort all the time, then you will seek, here's a point I missed. So if your baseline is comfort all the time, you will seek extreme comfort. So if normal is, like everyday normal baseline is very comfortable, in order to get like relaxation or like to seek that comfort, you're going to seek what I would call extreme comfort, which could be euphoria, which could be drug use, alcohol use, you know, other addictions. But if you can move your baseline closer to discomfort, then normal comfortable activities like just eating a meal or hanging out with a friend or putting on a sweatshirt will be more pleasurable. So let me say that again. So if your baseline of everyday existence is comfort and you never do anything uncomfortable, you will seek extreme comfort for relaxation, which would mean like euphoria or drunkenness or, you know, being high or, you know, overstimulation, etc. But if you can move your baseline further from that back to a more normal state of like, you know, doing uncomfortable things, you will actually get more pleasure out of normal things like, you know, eating a meal or, like I said, putting a sweatshirt on, hanging out with a friend. So that's something I just kind of thought about when I was up there on the mountain, like freezing cold and hungry and tired. So I hope that makes sense. Another just like random gear thing that I noticed Brad had, he had this grunt tube that like had an elastic band on it that would go on his arm. And so that way, like if he were able to get to full draw and need to like hit a grunt tube, it was right there, which I thought was a pretty cool little hack, if you want to call it that. So anyway, moving on from that. So yeah, like I said, we spent all day on those deer. I got a little bit of footage. Those Coues deer are so tough, man. And just the wind switched like that for a second. They caught a whiff and they were out. But I really gained a ton of respect for Brad as a hunter on that stalk. Just his knowledge and his patience and toughness. He's a good hunter. Brad Hunt is a good hunter, and so shout out to Brad. So day 4 is the next day. We again were pretty much all alone. Again, we were able to put eyes on a very nice Coues deer. I think it may have actually been the same one. I think, yeah, we relocated that same buck. He was on the same hill on Okatia. The Coues deer love Okatia. Side note. He was on the same hillside. They were rutting pretty good. I got some cool footage of him making some scrapes and chasing a doe around. And today was Brian's turn. And that day, Brian actually managed to get inside of 40 yards on this thing twice, which, again, like, to me, even getting in bow range of one of these Coues deer is an accomplishment. Killing one is like the next level. I mean, and both of these guys have killed Coues deers out there with bow. But, you know, it's just really tough. I was going to say something, I lost my train of thought there. Oh yeah, another thing that Brian kind of mentioned and kind of talked about was, he calls it counting coup, or like if you're familiar with the Old Testament, there's the part where King Saul is chasing after David to try to kill him, and David finds him in a cave going to the bathroom, and David's able to sneak up and like cut off a piece of his robe to prove that he was there, but didn't kill King Saul. There's another time I think that he walked up on King Saul and he was asleep and did not kill him. So the Native Americans had a phrase for that called counting coup, which basically, and I call it like a King David stalk is what I would call it. It basically means like you get in range where you could have killed the person, or in this case, animal, but you didn't. And so, Brian was saying like, and I totally agree, like if you're able to get in range of these animals, that's a successful stalk. If you're able to get to in range of these animals and you don't kill because maybe they walked off the other way or didn't go through your shooting lane or it got dark or even you had to back out. Just getting in range and not scaring, not busting the animal out, that's a successful stalk. So that's something I learned, and something he talks a lot about that he learned from Ryan is a lot of guys will try to push it too hard and try to like force their way into a shot on one of these animals, like to get in range and then to try to figure out how to move into position to get the shot on the animal. When actually these things are so cagey. If you want to kill a mature one with a bow, really a lot of times your best bet is get in bow range of the thing in a good position and wait for the thing to get up, to come your direct, and he might not. Like you might spend 4, 5, 6, 7 days chasing the same animal. You might be in bow range with him half a dozen times before he finally makes a mistake and walks in your shooting lane. And that's how a lot of these guys have success on these animals, is not forcing the issue. I almost like liken it to like hockey. It's not always about like, taking the puck in and making an awesome shot and making the goal. Sometimes it's just about getting the puck like in the vicinity of the goal. Just like lobbing the puck down there, and then eventually you lob the puck down there enough times, eventually it's going to end up in the goal. Kind of like with soccer too. It's kind of like that. It's like you want to get undetected into this thing's living room as many times as you can, and eventually he's going to walk to the fridge and he's going to walk right by you and you're going to kill him. Whereas if you try to walk straight up to him while he's laying there asleep, he's going to bust you. So there's a fine line between aggressiveness and passiveness that kills the buck, and Brian kept saying patience kills the buck. I know not everybody has the time, but if you can just slip into range, not get busted, and be patient, even if it takes days, that's how these really successful hunters get it done. That's kind of one of my, probably maybe the biggest takeaway. Just get in there. If you're counting coup, you're winning. Or, if you're doing a King David stalk. So that was a good day. Like I said, Brian got in bow range twice. Didn't work out. Brad spent, he probably put in 10, 11 hours behind the glass. Again, just really impressed with his work ethic and his skills and patience and toughness, and never complained or anything about it. And then, of course, it goes without saying, you want to have protective clothing with the sun, a glassing pad. Brian, Stealthy Hunter, and Gritty, they have a glassing pad that's nice that we used. Probably seems obvious, but you obviously do not want to skyline yourself ever. And you want to stick to the shaded areas, as much as you can. Again, that might be obvious, but I thought it's worth saying. When you're in the sun or you're skylined, you are standing out big time. And, with a mule deer, if you stay still and stay low, you can probably get away with it 9 times out of 10. With a Coues deer, no. Even if you're completely still, if they see something weird, they're gone. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. Day 5, we went back after Coues. We were not able to locate that buck again. That was kind of our plan, was try to find that buck again. We were not able to find him. And, we were just kind of, we split up. We were all glassing different areas. It got to be about 11:30 or 12, and I got on the radio. I was like, hey, you guys want to go check out, see if we can find a mule deer, or just kind of check out a different spot, what's going on. And eventually, it had been half the day. It just goes to show again that patience pays off behind the glass. got a message from Brad. He had found another really nice, mature, big Coues deer, a new one in a different area in a good stalkable location. So spent the rest of the day. Brad got into bow range of this thing. Weren't able to close the deal, but got some great film, and again, it was pretty much a success just getting in bow range of these things. So let's see. So just, make sure you're looking long and hard and patient behind the glass. Let's see. So day 6, we went back. I think that was a Tuesday. It was a long weekend. It was a 3-day weekend. So we went back after the mule deers on that Tuesday. And Brian was able to turn up a big muley he wanted to go chase after. And, we spent basically the whole day trying to get that deer, but what happens, as can often happen, the deer kind of disappeared into a spot, and me and Brad thought that's where he was. We kind of directed Brian to get over there. He positioned himself, like I mentioned before, he was patient, positioned himself within bow range, took the time getting in there right. But it turns out that the deer just slipped out, just kind of gave us a slip, and we never saw him leave the area. And, deer can do that. So then, get to day 7. And this was my last day. It wasn't supposed to be my last day, but I actually had to move my flight 2 days early because we had a big winter storm forecasted for my area where I live. A big winter storm for us is a few inches, but even the airline was messaging me, telling me that, my travel plans were going to be changed and messed up. So I did not, and I had, the day after I was supposed to get back, I'd promised my son, like months ago, that we would go to Monster Jam. I got him tickets to go see Monster Jam in my hometown, and he's been talking about it for months, and would have just been devastated if we missed it. So I was not messing around with that. I moved my ticket a little early so I didn't get stuck in an airport or anything like that. You never like leaving early, but sometimes you just got to. Family's important, and I didn't want to get stuck in an airport and miss Monster Jam with my son. So I left 2 days early, but day 7, that was my last day. The guys knew it was my last day, and they wanted to help me get my first archery mule deer. So we all split up different ways. I think it was about 9 or so. I talked to Brad, and he had found a little forkhorn that he said was in a good spot. So called Brian, and he said, "Yeah, let's go for it. Let's kill this thing." So I grabbed my stuff, headed down to where Brian was, met up with Brian. We packed up, and it's such a team effort killing these deer. Like, I'm sure there are guys that can kill them solo, but it would be just really tough. I mean, so what we did was me and Brian went up to a spot. So Brad was here. He could see the buck down in a little cut, but he was headed into an area where he was going to lose him. So me and Brian booked it up to another ridge about here, and just in time, the deer bedded down right into a cut that Brad could not see. We got there just in time to see him bed down. All you could see was literally just the top of his head. So we're sitting there. I'm, marking his location. I'm keeping eyes on him like a hawk. Meanwhile, Brad is coming down his mountain, back around up to where we are, so he can get eyes on the thing, and then we can go around the other ridge and stalk in from behind this thing. So like I said, it's a huge team effort. And these guys, they gave up their whole day of hunting to help me try to kill this, what to them would be a tiny little, small buck. But to me, as my first archery mule deer, would have been, awesome. So, and I told them when I was there, but I just want to say thanks again to those guys for they both were putting in like solid effort to try to get me this deer. And so it was cool. And so anyway, me and Brian go around, and we're gearing up. I'm getting my bow, getting my ancient moccasins on, and my leg gaiters, and getting my bow ready. And Brian's getting the camera ready, and I just had this moment of like, wow, this is cool. I just started the podcast a year ago, and to be honest, Gritty and Brian's work has always been a big inspiration to me. Like I really like his stuff. I've been a fan of his, and so to be sitting there getting my bow ready to go on a stalk and look over and have Brian call getting his camera ready to film me, I was just like, wow, like God is good. This is really cool. And I remember when I started off the podcast being like, one of these days I'm going to be hunting with these guys. I just said it, and I believe words have power, and God is good, and I just kind of had a moment of like, wow, this is cool. Like I'm getting ready to go on a stalk. Brian Call is with me. He's filming me. Like, this is just really cool. So anyway, just want to share that with you guys, and just encourage you that if you put in the work, and especially if you know the Lord, good things can happen. Just keep after it. Go after your dreams and whatnot. Even though it's probably a cliche, but just go for it. So anyway, so we're getting ready. I don't want to bore you with all the details. We were able to sneak in to about 100 yards, and then they kind of moved directions, and then we were able to reposition on them. There's a little bit of miscommunication as to where the deer were, and then we're kind of like walking, and we look up, and the buck is kind of up on a ridge, just like staring at us, and we're like, oh man, we're busted. And if it had been a Coues deer, we completely would have been. I mean, it would have been like no second thought, no hesitation. But since it was a young muley, it was curious, and so Brian says, I bet if we just like casually walk away and don't act like we're sneaking, we just kind of like walk away, he might stay there. So that was a cool little point. So we did that. So he kind of got up, and he was like, purposefully walking, swinging his arms around, and we walked away out of sight of this thing. And then we as soon as we kind of went under where he couldn't see us in this cut, we ducked down, snuck around, and Brian was able to range so the buck was on a little knob right here. There's another knob right here, and he was able to range. They're about 50, 60 yards apart. He's like, if we can get to this knob right here, we can probably get a shot at this thing. So we snuck up. Sure enough, lo and behold, we get behind this bush on this ridge, and that buck is still standing there just looking. And so anyway, yeah, I'll just be totally honest with you guys. I made a rookie mistake, man. We got in. He ranged the buck. It was at 60 yards. We were behind a bush, but he was staring right at us, pretty much. I mean, and I just made a rookie mistake, guys. I did. He said, Hunter, come on. And he was expecting me to, basically belly crawl up and kind of draw my bow and just be really slow and methodical. And like I said, I just made a rookie mistake. I moved too fast. I took a step. I took for granted the amount of cover that this bush was giving us. I kind of thought that we were concealed more than we were, but behind us, which I didn't know, we were skylined. And anyway, I took a step to try to get into position way too fast, and the deer saw me, and he booked. So that was disappointing, but I might have actually learned more from not killing that deer, to be honest with you. There's no such thing as failure. It's just learning, and Brian was so cool about it. Like, he wasn't like, we put in some good effort and some time getting in on this thing, and I blew it at the end, basically. He wasn't upset at all. He was totally cool about it, and he actually spent about 30 minutes just kind of showing me what I should have done and how I could have done it better, and really using it as a teaching moment. It was awesome, man. Like, shout out to Brian. He's a great dude. Like I said, he spent like 30 minutes and just, we even did some practice reps of like, he showed me exactly what he would have done and how I should do it next time. And like, I even, did a couple right there, sneaking up on my knees, slowly drawing the bow, then taking another step on my knees, and it was a really cool teaching moment. And I learned a lot from the experience, and was grateful for Brian for showing me that stuff and being really cool about it. So it was a cool like little moment there, and we kind of bonded, and so yes, I was disappointed that I didn't kill the buck. It would have been glorious to fill my tag, but at the same time, it was a really good experience. like I said, good learning moment, and it was cool. So after that, we headed back, and and I had to leave the next day. So, as far as filling tags, you could say it was not a successful hunt, but it was a successful hunt because I always knew going into this that being able to kill a deer, even to really get a shot or even a stalk on a deer, would be icing on the cake. I was going out to meet these guys to see if we could work together more, to see if we got along well, and just to see if it would work out professionally. And from that, and get to know them, and from that respect, it was a complete success. We had a great time. I consider those guys friends now. Like I said, I think we're going to be doing some more partnerships moving forward with me as a contributor, and also doing some more hunts together in the future. So, from a professional standpoint and a relational standpoint, total success. Would I have liked to kill that deer? Yes, but I learned a ton. I learned a ton about hunting in general, about bow hunting, about hunting the desert, about Coues deer, about mule deer, I even learned, more stuff about filming and how he kind of does things, which is super helpful for me. So yeah, it was a successful trip, and it was really cool. So I'm trying to see if there's any other things here. So okay, just a couple really quick gear things, and then I'll be done rambling. But so I wore Coues Katana stretch woven pants, I believe they're called. But I know they're called Katana. Great pants. They have side vents, enough pockets, durable, enough stretch, but not too much. I literally wore them every single day. Under them, I have the Coues zip-off long johns. Scree Gear makes them as well. Merino long johns, they zip completely off, so you can take them off without taking your boots off or taking your pants off. You had to unbuckle your pants, but I started off every day with those things on and would usually remove them, but some days I wore them all day. But those Katana pants are awesome. I wore them every single day. As far as a top, I just wore a merino or sometimes a synthetic t-shirt and a black Ovis 150 gram merino 1/4 zip hoodie. So Black Ovis, if you don't know about them, they make great stuff. Their merino hoodies are about 30 to 40, maybe $50 cheaper than the Coues ones, and I think they're just as good, maybe better. I think they're actually a little thicker. So they have a lightweight and a heavyweight. I have one of each. Definitely recommend Black Ovis stuff. They make puffies as well. They make a lot of good. Black Ovis has a lot of really good stuff coming out lately, and so check out Black Ovis. And the quality's there, and it's cheaper than like a name brand, I guess. But so I wore that Black Ovis merino hoodie every single day, the lightweight one. My boots, I actually wore Solomon Quests on this trip because I knew it was gonna be a dry hunt. They did great. No complaints there. For my shelter, I had my Hilleberg Namage 2 GT because it's a base camp type hunt. Bigger tent, huge vestibule, super comfortable. Let's see, puffies always. My broadheads, I ran from a tip from Dan Staten. Grim Reaper Micro Hades 3 blades. They fly pretty well. I tested them out versus my normal just 100 grain Muzzy 3 blade broadhead. To be honest, I didn't see a whole lot of difference. They might have been a little more, they might have flown a little bit more consistently, a little more accurately than the Muzzies, but not much, honestly. So I would still recommend the Muzzy 3 blades. The Grim Reapers are good as well, but that's what I was running. It was the Muzzies. Again, 2Vets tripods. Use that code HQ5. Save 5% on a killer tripod. I drank a ton of Black Rifle coffee on this trip, so you can also use the code. I'll put it in the description field, but I believe it's Hunter's Quest 20. Save 20% on your first order at Black Rifle Coffee. They have instant coffee and they have coffee bags, which are great for this type of hunt. Boil your water, throw your coffee bag in, good to go. And it's really good coffee. So, and please use my codes. I'll put them in the description field. Hunter's Quest 20 at Black Rifle, save 20%. It helps me out. And then, as always, Heather's Choice snacks and meals. I have a discount code with them as well. Check the description field and get some Heather's Choice. It's good stuff. I'm going to do a full hunting season recap in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to go over all my gear, everything I learned from hunting antelope, Sitka blacktail, Coues and mule deer this year. I learned a lot. Also, my elk hunt with Dan, I learned a lot about elk hunting. I learned a lot about videography, gear, backcountry hunting in general. I learned a ton this year, picked up a lot of stuff. I want to share all that with you, and I'm going to do that in the next couple weeks as I do that. Also, if you're going to be at Western Hunt Expo in Salt Lake City in mid-February, I will be there. Look me up. Let's link up. Send me a message on Instagram at The Hunter's Quest. And let's link up at the Western Hunt Expo if you're going to be there. So yeah, I just want to say thanks again for all your support. Hope you guys enjoyed this recap. I'm going to have Brad Hunt on as well in the next couple weeks to talk about the hunt and talk about a successful sheep hunt he had in Idaho this last year. But it's going to be a great year. I know I keep hammering this, but please subscribe to the YouTube channel because my Kodiak film series is going to start coming out mid-February, and this year is going to be an amazing year for creating content with the podcast and just tons of more video series coming out of my hunts this year. Really excited. Keep me in prayer. Keep sharing with friends, and thank you for all your support, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.